All right, so we excited to have Cameron join us. He's the founder and CEO of the Banyan Collective. They are a strategic partner with the Near protocol, where he runs a lot of the strategic programs and evangelizes the Near protocol. They're doing a lot of cool things in gaming, in sailing, and a few other sports. So without further ado, let's turn it over to Cameron.
Hey everybody, how's it going? Cameron Dennis. Make this relatively straightforward. I've been building in Web3 for about 7-8 years or so. I started the Blockchain Club at my university in 2018. Later on, started to teach about different blockchain protocols, primarily starting university accredited courses. So we started the first classes at like UCLA, UC San Diego, UC Santa Barbara. The whole goal is to create a talent machine. Through this whole process, I had to learn about every protocol. Very quickly realized we are not building for the masses. Blockchain is not going to work if people in Cambodia need to write down a 12-word seed phrase in English and manage that properly. It just won't work. They're not going to get onboarded. And so this led me down to, again, like every single ecosystem, and there's a few prerequisites to actually assure mass adoption. The first one being account model, like the protocol needs to support an account-based model where every wallet is a smart contract. Many of you have probably heard of smart accounts. These are essentially, instead of having to have what they call an EOA account, being able to only a public key matches with the private key, you're able to have an account that is a smart contract. Why is this important? Is because this is the prerequisite to start abstracting onboarding complexities away from the end user. Because right now, onboarding is really, really tough. So Near has that built into the protocol, like since day one. Ethereum recently created a standard that sort of enabled this, but this is what attracted me to the ecosystem originally. And actually the main lesson learned here, and this is very relevant for entertainment and gaming, is, I've been gaming my entire life, like actually since I was about 3-4 years old. There's no way in hell, all of Beyonce's fans or all World of Warcraft players are going to click sign transaction every single time they want to do anything in a blockchain-based game. This is pretty much what led me down to the Near ecosystem. I was at Near Foundation for about 2 years, responsible for all infrastructure, partnerships and integrations, oracles, indexers, explorers, on-ramps, et cetera. And then I did my job and they were like, well, what do you want to do next? And I'm like, well, I want to build a product studio dedicated to very specific initiatives. Those initiatives, this product studio is called the Banyan Collective. And these initiatives being co-generation through an amazing project called Jutsu. The founder was just here, actually. Second project is called Potluck, which is public goods funding infrastructure. Third is called Edge. This is Edge AGI, how to have small models run on local devices. And the last one's a digital government initiative that recently closed down because governance is really hard. So yeah, just a little background, but the whole point here is why are blockchains really important? To me, it's about giving people the option to own your money, data, and governance without a third party. Like that is the core here. And there are a lot of other benefits, like making historically illiquid assets, like real estate, like loyalty points, like game credits, more liquid. So how do you turn those illiquid assets into USDC that you can off-ramp to dollars if you want to? And really about giving the people the option to do this. We are not going to convince millions of people to do this from the get-go. We have to give them the option to exit to the open web. It will not work if it's forced. So, this is the quick origin story of Near. I'll get to the whole creator component in a bit, but Near started off as an AI company, and the whole point was to pay people to label data to train large language models. And the founder, one of the co-founders, Ilya, he was the co-author of a paper called Attention is All You Need. Does anyone know this paper? Raise your hand. Okay. This is the paper that describes transformers, the T in ChatGPT, for the first time. This is literally the foundation of all AI today. And so he very quickly realized, the world's going to be super dystopic if people don't own their money, data, and governance, because, he just saw where this is going. And so the first app ever created was to pay people to label data to train those large language models. But you need a network where the transaction fee is lower than the transaction itself. We can't have a CryptoKitties moment. And who here knows CryptoKitties? Okay. It pretty much like, completely congested the Ethereum network, made transaction fees rise tremendously, and made it pretty much unusable. So we need to create a blockchain that is actually scalable and could meet demand when the users do come. And so this is pretty much I'll just get to the actual like meat and potatoes here. Actually, where Near's going, blockchains are cool, but it's honestly just a means to an end. What we really need is a way to abstract blockchains away from people. Again, a critical piece in gaming and entertainment and trying to target retail users, because who here, it would be ridiculous if you needed to be like Amazon pilled to then use Instagram and Snapchat. Like that doesn't make any sense. If you need to care about what cloud provider your favorite apps are using in order to use the app, that's ridiculous. So all a blockchain really needs to be is a database that scales, that's distributed and maintains state. And so, but how do we actually go about this to, again, not have users care where their favorite apps are deployed? It's this concept called chain abstraction. But before we really prove out that we need chain abstraction, let's prove out that we need blockchains to begin with, and that, we can actually facilitate this demand. Because we can't prove that we facilitate this demand, then what are we really building for? So, we partnered up with a lot of existing Web 2 organizations that have a lot of users. I'm talking like hundreds of millions of users. And giving those users the option to exit to Web 3 to, again, solve a problem that they have. They're not going to jump through all these complex hoops if we're just going to, provide them a little bit incentive. We got to solve a real problem here. And so some of the biggest apps in Web3 today are all on Near. Actually, this is a little outdated. I'll show you the more updated one. So these are the most popular apps in all of Web3 by weekly active accounts. Users are hard to measure because one user can have many accounts. And so on a blockchain, this is pretty much the only way that we can measure this. And so I'm going to walk through some of these apps because a lot of them are games. And a lot of them have to do with entertainment because that's what people really love to do. So just to kind of walk through some of them, Hot Protocol, this actually started off as a wallet in Telegram because, again, if you're trying to build for retail users, you need to meet them where they are. When was the last time, when was the last time any of you downloaded a new app on your phone in the last, who downloaded an app on their phone in the last 3 months? A new app. Yeah, that's actually more than normal. Most people don't download new apps at all. They use Snapchat, they use Instagram, they use the apps that they download, or they normally use. They normally don't download anything new. And so we need to meet them where they are. Telegram, which is, pretty much a super app, and it's becoming more of a super app, is where there are hundreds of millions of users. And so this team that was building a mobile wallet called Here Wallet built a Telegram wallet and then added some pretty cool gamification features. And you guys can download it right now. It's just Hot. It's like the Hot game. If you go to Dap Radar, you can check it out. And yeah, again, they have see how many weekly active users. At 1.27 million weekly active users, accounts. And this is because we made it easy for them to go into their Telegram, swipe up, and then be able just to claim rewards. And after every period of time, they're able to claim a reward. They're able to stake that reward in order to, unlock this thing that has worked very, very well. Who here's played Candy Crush and some of these mobile games that it's pretty much crack for people. They love this stuff. And so if you give them these gamified rewards, they come back. And so we've seen a tremendous amount of success with Hot. And now the main goal for them, where they're going next, is building this multi-chain network that allows to abstract, every blockchain away. So you're able to transact on these other chains using your Hot wallet and account, all through Telegram. So if you're building for consumer apps, they're likely not going to come download your new app. Go to where they are. And where they are in crypto right now, a lot of them are in Farcaster. Who here is familiar with Farcaster? So Farcaster is a social network built on Base and has nothing to do with Near, but it's pretty much a mobile app. It's called Warpcast, and this is where a lot of crypto, actually it's more developers and founders right now. It's still a relatively small community, but where a lot of crypto consumers are going today. So definitely check out Farcaster if you're trying to stay on the cutting edge of crypto social. And so one thing I wanted to, flag and highlight was we partnered with this organization called SailGP. Who here knows SailGP? It's pretty popular, kind of in the Bay Area. It's a sailing. Has normally nothing to do with crypto. This is it's a sailing competition, primarily run by I think Larry Ellison from Oracle. And the whole point here is we worked with them to build a DAO platform to manage their sailing teams. Because the whole point was like, we want to try to bridge this gap between the teams and the fans. And so the fans were able to determine, like through voting within a DAO, who should be on the boat. What are the, just like kind of basic like ways to engage with fans, like, oh, hey, if you sign up here, you're going to be able to get this NFT, you're going to get like VIP access, all this other stuff, which is really cool. The problem is that a lot of times like onboarding is really hard for people, and people are not like, retail is not going to deal with any sort of technical complexities. And so you really need to abstract that away. Like you need to make it like stupid simple, like just mobile app, like big red buttons, like click here to vote in order to get them to engage. And so we built this whole thing. There was some engagement. It wasn't amazing. And so quite honestly, I'm not as big of a fan of these things. It's a really cool idea. It's a cool experiment. But when it comes to mass market, I'm much more optimistic about projects like Hot that are, meeting people where they are, and getting, retail to try to use complex blockchain infrastructures doesn't always work. So I want to talk through the second one. This is called Kai, also known as Kaiching. This is, I believe, the second most popular app in all of crypto in terms of weekly active accounts. And this is a loyalty program with a payment provider, payment solution, and e-commerce tool in Southeast Asia. And so what do? Well, they use blockchains when they use near for settlement. And why do they do that? Is because it actually saves them money. So if you're trying to again, target real corporate partners, you build something that actually makes their life easier rather than harder, or saves them money. And so Kai is a great example of this. They give, in terms of what is the blockchain integration, a lot of the loyalty points and are actually just NFTs and fungible tokens on Near that they're able to convert to fiat. So again, taking a historically illiquid asset like a loyalty point and making it easier for them to transact. So, they have a ton of usage. And what's cool here is that these games, or apps, they're very open to work with other partners in the Near ecosystem to push their users to their platforms. And this is super valuable if you're building a DeFi app and you're looking for people to, test out your stuff. Here's get the users. And the whole point here was to really prove out that we have the demand to warrant to make all this big investment to do chain abstraction, because the protocol needs to scale. If it doesn't scale, you're not going to make it. It's just you're gonna die with demand. Demand's gonna be a bad thing for you. And so and I'll be honest here, we have seen a lot of huge increase of demand on Near, and it wasn't the protocol that started to fail. It was all the middleware. So all the RPC endpoints, all the indexers, that started to get really, really overwhelmed, and transactions did start to get slower. Fortunately, that's a much easier fix than having to do entire protocol upgrades and change consensus. But that was a big issue for us for a few weeks, was RPCs started to just be overwhelmed. There's too many people using it. So yeah, if we really check the blockchain box here, we can focus on, this is actually the presentation. So yeah, I want to talk about the third, one of the most popular apps in crypto. These things goes down from 10 to 5 and whatnot. It's called Sweatcoin, Sweat Economy. We heard of it? It's a big Web2 app. They've had over 100 million downloads historically. Many of you probably used it before they even entered Web3. Again, taking a historically illiquid asset like a sweat coin and making it more liquid, which, you used to only be able to exchange your sweat coins for yoga pants or shoes or something like that. Now you can take this asset and turn it to USDC, provide liquidity on a DEX, and, enter the world of Web3. But all of that is a huge lift for a lot of retail, just to now manage their own keys and everything. So you really have to abstract it away. And there's a lot of really amazing innovations that have happened where you're able to store private keys locally on your phone. in some secure enclave, which really makes it easier. So all these Sweatcoin users don't need to write down a 12-word seed phrase. Their private key is technically stored in their iCloud. So it just feels like a normal app. Now, the caveat there is you're essentially custodying your crypto with Apple, because if someone gets access to your iCloud, they get access to your private key. And so the whole point here is there's always going to be trade-offs. And so in order to sort of mitigate risks in those trade-offs, we like to implement kind of this thing called progressive onboarding. In the early days of somebody entering, Web3 through a consumer app that they already use, it might not be the biggest, worst thing in the world if they lose their keys, when the main value of their Apple iCloud account is like all their photos and messages and everything. They're probably not as concerned about maybe some loyalty points that they generated. But that's, again, needs to be progressive. And so the whole point here is once you have a certain amount of NEAR or value in your account, you are then prompted to manage your keys in a different way. So that to me is like a huge important thing that we need to implement across like all consumer-based crypto apps. And one of the last ones that's like very popular is called Play Ember. This is a bunch of kind of like casual games on mobile and on desktop. And there's a lot of people who, just want to play games and generate some money. And so I want to flag, there's a big difference between playing games and having fun and playing a game as a job. And so everyone here lives, I'm assuming, in like the Bay Area. Maybe, you have people, friends, family in other countries. But something like Axie Infinity, who here knows what Axie Infinity is? This was, it looks like a fun game. This was less of a game, more of a job for people in emerging economies to make some money in order to live their lives. And so I want to really clearly distinguish these things. There are games that are intended to be fun. And then there are crypto apps that people game in order to make money. And so we definitely need to distinguish these things. And if we don't, then we're going to be building games that are not fun and only really played by people just to use to make money, which means you're never really going to get like, high quality users or long-term engagement, because right when those incentives turn off, all of those users will disappear. And so I just want to flag, like, if anyone's building games, like, build games that are fun and people want to play. I have not seen really any. The closest thing that I've probably seen to like a fun game in crypto that I haven't even tested out yet because it's not live is called Shrapnel. This is a AAA gaming studio. But even in gaming in Web 2, like, you can build the most amazing game in the world that's so much fun, but if you don't have the proper distribution, you're going to fail. And so not only is it hard to build games that are fun, it's even harder to build games that are fun in Web 3 because the target market is much lower, the experience is much worse. And so I just want to flag, like, you really have to abstract that experience away. And I would even recommend to people, build a Web 2 game, get adoption. Actually, just like, don't mention crypto at all. Don't even add wallet, anything. And then give your users the option to exit if it meets their interests. Take a historically illiquid asset like a game or a skin and make it more liquid, exchange it for USDC. Or, you don't need to, have all the game logic within a smart contract. That doesn't make any sense. That's going to be really slow and expensive. Just do that in a centralized database. It's not a big deal. This is not something that needs to be trustless unless you're, literally re-emulating the real world in a digital way, which is not what's alive today. Don't do that. Like, build a game that people want to play. It's not rocket science. And then also another big concern is hacks. Please, please, please don't bridge assets. The bridges get hacked all the time. Literally, like, $5 billion of value has disappeared from the face of this earth into North Korean pockets to, and it's not just like, Joe Schmo's hacking you on, like, some guy in his basement. This money is being allocated to North Korean's government to, build weapon programs and, nuclear systems. And so, like, it's not, you got to be wary about this stuff. And, please don't bridge assets. And so And I know this is like probably not the most like optimistic Web3 and entertainment, but to be honest, I want to talk to you like how it is. We are the network with the most traction, and we see the challenges. This to us is definitely something that we should continue innovating around as long as we meet users where they are. If we don't meet users where they are, what are we really building for? We're just going to like pump these markets and kind of, it's not solving any problem. And so again, like build games that are fun. Don't get too involved with large organizations that don't understand the tech, or else you're going to have to manage the entire build out for it. That's a big mistake. They might have some distribution, but if your team can't manage the actual development and all the maintenance and everything that needs to go into that, don't work with them. It's really straightforward. And so, yeah, this is pretty much it. And if you guys have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Yeah, please.
Hi. So a lot of people look at Near and they criticize it. I think Near is one of the best designed blockchains, along with maybe one or two others, Solana, Polkadot. And they say that Near doesn't have a marketing team and that the total value locked is low. They don't have a Jupiter Finance. They don't have DePIN, the decentralized infrastructure like Hive Mapper, Helium, and what's that other big one? There's another huge one.
Yep.
Render. Render's huge too. And I'm thinking there's got to be something that Near is really, really good at that other ones can't do. And I'm thinking maybe it's BOSS, blockchain operating system. So has Near talked to Web2 companies and handhold them and try to bring them into Web3?
Yeah. That's actually every one of these examples, except for Hot. Kaiching, huge e-commerce payment tool, Web 2 to Web 3. But let me flag, Polygon tried this. Polygon blew probably dozens of millions of dollars working with YouTube, Nike, Starbucks, etc., thinking that it's going to, bring mass adoption. Where are any of those apps today? They're not around. Why? Because they just saw an opportunity to rug a crypto company. They're like, oh yeah, sure, I'll take your $5 million deal and maybe launch a MVP and nothing. It was nice marketing, but to your point, you need to hold their hand. And we did, but it requires like very, very special, like certain companies, ones that are actually going to benefit from using blockchain. Starbucks doesn't need blockchain right now. They're doing just fine. Maybe the loyalty points could be good in the loyalty system, but again, like for Web3 native people, these people wanted it. And by the way, the blockchain operating system is a piece of the stack to decentralize, to abstract chains away from everybody. Like that's the whole point. Because at the end of the day, it shouldn't be Avalanche or Solana or Near or ETH or whatever. It should just be an operating system that people can use to own their money, data, and governance. Any other questions? Great. Awesome. Thanks for having me.